right, everybody, welcome to day 2. Look, here he is, the man himself.
What's going on?
Donnie Knight in the house.
Hey,
what's
Pete,
up, man?
what's up?
We're here, we're day 2. He was a fantastic guest yesterday. He led me off here. We have another full day of lineup. This is the second and final day of Transform. Fantastic guest from the world of HR, TA, tech. This is awesome. We're going to break down AI, because everyone's talking about AI. Jeremy Schiff is on the show from Recruitment, and we're going to get into it. Las Vegas, let's go day 2. Hot lights, big city, Transform HR day 2. We are kicking things off on this Friday. Geez, did I say Friday? What day is today?
Wednesday, bro.
And I should know that because today's my wedding anniversary. Today's my 14-year wedding anniversary. But I didn't say the date wrong. Thank you. I just had the day wrong, but not the date.
Okay, there you go.
Well, we're kicking things off. Day 2 at Transform Las Vegas. I had a relatively tame night last night. How was your night, Kyle?
Super tame.
Yeah.
Ate branzino, did a little work, went to bed.
How was the branzino prepared?
At Delilah, it was grilled over wood. It was extraordinary.
I love that. I also love a good salt baked fish, too.
Yes.
Yeah, but it has to be done right.
And they also had $26 pigs in a blanket.
What do you mean?
They,
Was that the best hot dog you've ever eaten in your
no,
life?
it was fine. It wasn't worth $26. The branzino was fire, but that's okay. We're in Vegas, baby.
I also had a $14 iced coffee this morning, so that kind of blew my mind. Well, it was an iced coffee at a protein bar. All right. That's called small talk, you folks out there. Kyle Samuels, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you for having me, Adam.
Let's give everyone the quick, we'll call it the elevator pitch. Tell us who you are and what you do best.
I'm Kyle Samuels. I'm the founder and CEO of the executive search firm Creative Talent Endeavors, and what we do best is bring value to our clients, most recently by use of our Fair&T executive search pricing algorithm.
Leave off the last as for savings, and we are both executive search recruiters, so we're going to talk shop here a little bit. You have an incredible background leading TA at some big brands, including Yum Brands, which is Taco Bell, KFC, Pizza Hut. Pizza the Hut. Yeah, Pizza the Hut. So you were a corporate recruiter for a long time. Was it a tough transition to go to the dark side, as we like to call it?
I started in retained executive search, so I bounced back. So I came up as a research analyst.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So when you were back were you a full desk recruiter?
Oh yeah. I just got my email for 19 years on LinkedIn. That's how long I've been in the game, my friend.
I think I've been in that for a long time as well too. So what has changed in the world of executive search from the time you started, going to the corporate side, and now back to having your own firm?
AI? No, I was playing.
No, we're gonna get into that. AI, motherfuckers.
All jokes aside, identification. I started in search in 2002, and so it was literally like, hello, Microsoft, I'd like to speak to your director of total rewards. Do you have a name? Oh man, what if you look, like literally getting past the gatekeepers and all that. Now it's super easy. You don't even need recruiter to find people. That's cool. Now the real power and influences is engaging them. Anyone can find the person.
We made it so easy.
How do you get them to connect with you? That's the hard part.
The best is when I talk to old school recruiters, and they tell stories of how they used to have the phone directory. This is back when people worked in an office.
Ooh.
Right, and they would have the phone directory, and they would just go down the numbers. Or if they didn't have a directory, they would literally just be like 516-230-001-002.
Well, that's what you do, because sometimes you know the name of the person, right? But you don't have their extension. So you'll call like a random one, and you're like, to try to get past the gatekeeper, because sometimes the executives, EAs won't. Who are you? What are you calling about?
Yeah.
So instead, you say like, hey, I'm so sorry, Margaret in accounting. I'm looking for your CEO. Can you pass me over to Adam Posner? Okay, that's 4729. Thank you.
Yeah, you gotta play the game. But now it's easy. So it's all about engagement. We were chatting beforehand how it really is a relationship game. It's no surprise the last 12 to 18 months for recruiters has been hell. I talk about all the time my business is down almost 70% year over year, which is brutal. And I had a damn good run for the last 3 years before that. But it's taught me a lot. It's taught me that I'm resilient. It's also taught me that relationships, I've always put relationships first. I'm a relationship guy. That's why I do the show. That's why we're connected here. And you brought something up before, and we're going to talk about the Fair&T in a little bit, is how do you go back to your existing customers that you've already built a rapport with, you've established that we do good work with you, we found some great folks for you. So how are you guys approaching changing the traditional contingency recruitment model? I personally think it's flawed, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. So break it down for us.
We do retain. We don't do contingents.
Okay, we'll talk about same family. They're kissing cousins. But let's talk about retained.
So when it comes to, my theory has always been this: if a client or a company is willing to spend money on contingent search, it means they're willing to pay for search. It just means they want to mitigate risk as much as possible. In that case, it's like, I don't have to pay you a dime until you hire the person.
Pause on that for a second. One of the things I hate most about contingency, unless I have an exclusive, which is really what I push for the most, I always go for container, which is a mix, it's a hybrid. Right. And it's a good entree for folks who might be a little trepidatious of where they want. But I'm like, I really won't take a search if it's open market contingency. No. And then you're almost betting against me to not fill the role. It's like, you know what? We're only going to pay you if you fill it. Like, but I'm going to fill it, and you're going to pay me. Right. So why don't we do a retainer up front where you might get a little bit of savings, and I'm going to work with you one-on-one. You're not dealing with any other recruiters, and we're going to partner versus. I want to be a partner and not a vendor. Yes. Change the dynamic of that conversation. So talk to us about your model and the learning that went into this, into the Farentee, and chop it up. 100%. So, as you know, in typical executive search, there's a percentage of the candidate's fee that is paid to the search firm, right? 30%, 33 1/3 is kind of the standard. At the end of the day, we're in Vegas. Executive search is like Vegas. It's casino, and the house always wins. Where else can you think about a role where your client tells you, okay, here's what we want to pay, $400,000 for that candidate, right? But you're the person saying, sorry, couldn't find someone for $400,000. We can only find the $500K candidate. Now, there might be a $385 candidate, right? But why would the search firm show you that person? It doesn't make sense for them. They need to compensated based on the compensation of the candidate, right? Which is and now you're screwing the client because they had a budget. Now you're maxing on another couple of points on top of that because the higher salary. 100%. And so we wanted to, lots of times people ask, how do you differentiate yourself from the bigger firms and what's different? And so I wanted to put a flag in the ground and be like, we're the ones who actually give a shit about y'all, and we want to add value. And so think about the world we're in right now. Post-COVID, 5 years ago, if someone wanted to be the CIO of the Wynn Casino and Resort in Vegas, they're going to be here in Vegas. Now, not necessarily, right? And so if they ask a search firm to find that CIO and they have to be here in Vegas and they have to come in 5 days a week, in this current climate, that's going to be tougher than can be anywhere in the United States. Anywhere in the United States, you've exponentially increased the ability for your search firm to find the person because there's more people. We brought in the market. They'll do it more quickly. They can then go ahead and, guess what, take other searches and make more money. Current way the search is with percentages, the client gets nothing for saying, no, they can work remote. In our system, we give you a flat price, which is the Farentee. It's a data-driven, AI-powered algorithm that looks at where is the role located? Do you have to come in the office at all? Remote, hybrid? Are you paying at the 25th percentile or the 85th percentile? So it's doing so it's taking in salary benchmarking as well, market. But it also taps into what we do best. So like HR is our number one function. If it's an HR search, we're going to crush it. Restaurants, we're going to crush it, right? Now you might give us a search. We don't do a lot of healthcare. If you want a senior director of medical services in Birmingham, Alabama, where no one wants to move, our Farentee might be like 42%. But the difference is we're being upfront and honest about, this is going to be hard. It's going to take a long time. And we're going to be compensated for our effort accordingly. Right. But if it's an easier search, it'll scale down. And also, the price doesn't change. So if it takes you an extra $100K to convince someone to move to Birmingham, Alabama and come in the office full time, why should we eat off of that $100K? That's your money that's motivating the candidate, not us talking about the opportunity. And so created Farentee to give back to our clients and show that we really believe in fairness and a guarantee. Have you trademarked Farentee yet? Because yes, sir. If not, I'm going to steal it. We got it. We got him. Son of a bitch. We got him. I love it. So let's talk about, you have an entrepreneurial background. Yes. How did you beta test this Farentee concept with your clients? And what was some of that initial Exactly feedback? What you said, relationships. Yeah. I talked to the people that I trusted. At first I was very paranoid about the idea getting out, and then I was like, like the big Shrek firms, they can't do it because they got partners making $7 and $8 million a year and beautiful offices with aquapana. Yeah. They can't do this. They need to live on the fat and the margin to continue that. So they would never do this, even though they could have, and they probably thought about it a while, right? Mm-hmm. And so it was just like when you're a small company, when you're new, you have to find a way to differentiate yourself besides saying like, we're like Cohen Ferry, but like way smaller. No. Set something different that like sets you apart from the industry. And so far so good. With your retained search model, if you don't mind sharing, is there a traditional guarantee period? Yes, 180 days. 180 days. Yes. Is it replacement or refund? Replacement. Yeah, I am so against the refund model because we're putting in the work, right? And replacement, more likely than not, and everyone knows this in recruiting, a lot of times the number 2 candidate is the one who gets the job because number 1 is probably slightly more competitive. They may get another offer. I mean, so there's usually, folks, 3 candidates lined up that are pretty much ready to go. You're not going to know what number you are.
Right.
I mean, there's some indicators too, like if you're at the final round, and I'm a good recruiter, I'll say, listen, I'm very transparent, but listen, there's a couple other folks in play. They have a couple more interviews scheduled this week. We're going to let everyone play out a little bit. I'm going to keep you posted on it. But I want my candidates to know that there's competition, because that also helps a little bit with the leverage on both sides of the negotiation. Right? You're not the only candidate. You're not the holy grail. You're not the chosen one here, right? So I think that's important as well there too. But I want to get back and talk a little bit about the entrepreneurial journey. You were at EY for a bit too.
Yep.
One of my closest friends, Drew. Shout out, Drew. Just became a baby daddy. The entrepreneurial journey is not for everybody.
No.
So I am kind of sick and tired of a lot of this toxic entrepreneurial messaging I hear all over social media, and I think it's a byproduct of, unfortunately, a lot of layoffs in tech and otherwise. But there's a lot of people out there saying, like, if you have an idea, just go for it. And I do believe if you have that passion, but I think you need to take precaution going into it and do your due diligence. So you have to mix passion with being, you got to be pragmatic to a point, but also you got to be a little bit crazy to do what we do. And not everyone has that. Where's that little bit of crazy in you, man?
Shit.
You didn't know where I was going with that one.
I'm an only child. I'm an introvert. I'm neurodivergent. I was born with it. I always say pain is the best teacher. So like you could see a stove, electric stove, red hot coil. Don't touch it, it's hot. But I'm like, what if they spray painted it red and the treasure's under there? So I'm gonna touch it. I gotta do it. I lost my mom, not at a super young age. I was an adult, but like, 25, 26. And so that's like your greatest fear. That was the greatest thing, is my mom. That's over. So like, then you're like, oh shit, like I still miss my mom and I love her, but like, I'm okay. Life's okay. And so once you realize that, business, whatever. So that was helpful in my journey. I also will say I started my company. I was very lucky. I was working at Taco Bell. The chief people officer at Taco Bell was my mentor. I could have open conversations with him. What do you want to do next? Thinking I'm going to talk about within the organization. I said, I love it here. I'm getting paid well. I'm doing great work, but I really want to open my own search firm. But like, I don't hate it. So why would I take that risk? Months of conversations. We'd be happy to be your first client. And then you know this, especially with passive candidates. To me, the most important thing in terms of a search, the biggest tool you have is brand recognition. If I call you as a passive candidate and I say, hey, blipsyblop.ai wants you to be their COO, if you don't know what they are, you have to research. If I say Taco Bell wants you to be their COO, you may or may not want the job, but no one's ever said, tell me more about this Taco Bell and what their products and services are, right?
This bell of tacos you speak of.
Right. And so I'm like, if I can't be successful doing that with that kind of head start, then I should not be doing this. We're here 7 years later, so it worked out.
I think it's so important too in branding from a recruiter perspective too. Listen, recruiters honestly are a dime a dozen. It's a low barrier to entry profession, and technology has made it easy. And we talked about that before with AI. So I want to talk a little bit about this Moneyball approach here, algorithm. As much as you're open to sharing, I want to how are you using AI to come up with this scalable fee? I want to get into some of the variables here because I think there's a lot to learn.
Yeah.
And I think I'm a big believer in abundance. Listen, I can give you the formula, but if you're not a good cook, that thing's going to taste like shit when it's done, right? So I can give you all my secrets, but you're never going to do as well. People are like, oh, how do you do the podcast? How have you gotten so many guests on here? How have you done? I go, it's hard work. I put in the time. And I don't mean to sound like a dick saying this, but you're not me.
It's a fact.
Right? Like,
it's a fact.
Snoop Dogg you ever hear the Snoop Dogg? He's like, first of all, he got his star on the Walk of Fame. He's like, I'd like to thank me for being me. And there's something to that.
But that's a thing that everyone has to realize and embrace their uniqueness, because everything's going to be different. Not everyone's going to have their mentor and be like, cool.
Go for it.
Yeah, leave our company. We spent 6 figures moving you around this organization 4 years from city to city, but sure, go do your own company, right? Like, so you got to have the relationships.
Wow. I mean, relationships are everything. And I think that, let's talk about relationships for a little bit. My secret is, and it's not so secret, is relationships are not transactional. But also, there are some relationships where it's okay to be transactional, but if you're upfront about it, right? Like,
I love that.
It's straight up. Like, I'm not gonna listen. They're short-term relationships, and not. Listen, I'm a student, a scholar, a preacher of the long game. In my opinion, the long game's the only game in town. But there are certain relationships. But don't fucking fake that. I could smell that shit. I'm in New York. I could smell that all day long. Let's be real.
There's a lot of fugazi. There's a lot of fugazi
out there.
And that's one of the things I had to learn. Again, like, as I started to, when I first started the company, it was all like people I knew, relationships, clients. Then we got bigger, hired more, started to expand. It's like, oh shit, I don't know every client, which, at a certain point you grow, that could be a good thing. But you kind of lose the, I would say, the control and the passion that comes through when they're actually speaking to, the founder and the person who's doing the company. But what you mentioned about some things being okay, I'll give you an example. We have referral agreements. So like if someone introduces us to a client, they get a percentage of that fee. That is extremely transactional, but that's okay. It's very upfront. Like literally, this is a transaction, right? But when it comes to building relationships, I found as long as people realize when you're there when things are just good and when you're there like all the time checking in, right? Like, are you only calling me as a recruiter when you know that my company's going crazy and we have a lot of jobs? Or are you talking to me when you know I just got laid off 2 weeks ago and right now I can't do shit for you?
But here's what you can do, and this is what I learned. In those tough times, you talk about early pandemic, I reached out to my recruitment mentor, a gentleman named Joe Mullings, MedTech, Biotech Recruitment, been in the space 30 years. He's a fucking legend. He said to me, this is week 2 into the pandemic when shit was going down and we had no idea it was the end of the world. He's like, you have 2 options right now. You could either curl up into a ball and die, roll over and die, or you could keep your head up and go be of value to your clients. What could I do for you? How could I help you without having a handout and asking for anything? Because when the smoke clears, who the hell do you think they're going to call first? And I followed that advice, and I hyped them up on LinkedIn. I invited them onto the podcast. Like, how could I make their brand bigger? And I think so many people are short-sighted, especially in recruitment. Now, there's plenty of people out there that have just built massive transactional machines. They go, inch wide, mile deep, and they have that whole vertical on that. And it's interesting. So let's talk about your specialty. For everyone out there, where are you focused from a recruitment perspective? What are your sectors?
So we're industry agnostic, but the functions we focus on are 4 core ones. So HR, number 1, finance and strategy, number 2, product and engineering, number 3, and then go-to-market, number 4.
Which one excites you the most personally? When
HR.
And are you still in the trenches recruiter? Like did full desk?
I'm on the recruitment teams, and I interview candidates, but I don't do, we got research analysts and stuff. Yeah,
but you said HR is the one that you enjoy.
I mean, it's my people.
So like you feel like you're just talking to your people.
Yeah.
And I think in HR too, and let's back the train up for a second here. So let's go back. I've been in the workforce called almost 25 years, which is crazy at this point. I know I look like a baby. But when I started, there was like this big divide, and there still kind of is, where HR were almost like the narcs. They were like the cops of the company, and you went to them for your paperwork and everything. And we've seen this really cool, the empathetic evolution. And we've also seen the trend of HR and TA really coming together, but also knowing their lanes and understanding, and I explain this to people, HR is not TA. TA is not HR. There are different functions there. What trends have you been seeing coming from an incredible behemoth enterprise organization where you see it on the inside, and now you're sitting on the outside? What are some of these trends in HR and then TA separately? Two-part question, 10-part answer.
HR I'll hit first, and I love to see it. I've seen a lot more HR executives expand their role outside of HR, right? And so like where I used to work at Yum Brands, the woman, Tracy Skeens, phenomenal leader. She started, when I got there, she was the head of HR for Pizza Hut US. She's now the COO of the entire Yum, right? And they've done that with other executives. And that's something that I'm seeing is like, usually it was like operations, finance, marketing gets to get to the bigger roles. In HR, you've peaked at CPO. I'm not seeing that anymore. Regarding TA, I'm seeing a better appetite for TA leaders. They want to switch their recruiters from being, I'll call them farmers, to hunters, right? Right now it's like, who came in the ATS bucket and whatever lobsters
sorters.
Right. Versus someone who goes out like a sniper and is like, no. We're going to get Rick Johnson interested in this job. No, we want Rick Johnson. Rick Johnson.
Dude, I love that analogy because that's how I explain. I explain recruiting that sometimes I'm a farmer. Sometimes I'm planting seeds, plowing the fields, tending the crops. Sometimes I'm a ninja. I'm sneaking in, figuring it out. Sometimes I'm a true headhunting sniper motherfucker. And they hired me to find who they want. And I went out. Recent client. They first came to me. I'm not going to blow them up or anything, but they said, we want the head of our competitor. And I was like, challenge accepted.
I love that shit.
And I love it because that's what gets my juices. I could fill normal, UI, UX roles all day, dime a dozen, they're great and everything. But if it's a senior level executive search, that's what I thrive on. I love executive search. My firm is personally growing more into that. My wheelhouse, though, is director, senior level, VP. But I want to be tested. I want to be pushed because those are the conversations. It's not just the big fees. It's a different ball game. These are real relationships, and these folks are it's a different dialogue. Talk to everyone out there the difference between executive search and kind of that midline. Like, why is it so much harder? And is it easier at times?
So if you're doing executive search right, it really is holistic. When you're talking to the candidate, it's not just about the job. You should know about the company. You should know about their 5-year strategy. You should know
finances.
Okay, cool. You're bringing me in as a VP of Total Rewards. Like, is this a role where you're trying to groom someone to be a chief people officer, or is it just like, no, you can do this for the next 20 years, right? You need to be able to provide the opportunity because, especially like you said, at the executive level, people aren't just leaving for just like, ooh, 20% more in a title.
No.
It's like, what's next and what's next. So I think you have to be able to do that.
Is it succession planning? Is there a glass ceiling in front of me? You're hiring me in for a role, and then like the guy or lady in front of me is not going anywhere.
Why did the incumbent leave? Like what? Like those are all the things. Whereas I think you're kind of mid-level. They're just like, okay, job spec says this. This person has 8 years of this. They're willing to do it. And I've had, like when I used to work, not for myself, I would listen to recruiters, even if I knew I didn't want the job, because it's like competitive intelligence. And you maybe not be surprised. You ask a question that's not on there, and it's like, oh, well, what's the growth trajectory? They just had this acquisition, they're buying more, and it's like the recruiter's like, company X offers an exciting set of benefits, like, because they don't know. They just know what's on the paper.
Now you have to know, you have to be a partner, you have to be involved. You have to know the finances, the roadmap, what's that look like? People don't want to move, like you're going from a well-established organization to like, so you're taking me out of a Yum brand and you want me to go to a Series A startup with, $2 million left in the bank. That's not getting anyone anywhere. That's not getting anyone far. Why am I taking that? Why am I taking that risk? Why am I doing that? So I want to bring it home here. And what, as a business owner, keeps you up at night these days?
That's a really good one. I know it's a cliche, but let me think now.
I mean,
it would have been different a month ago.
No, but we're all entrepreneurs, and these are the things that if you asked me 3 months ago, when was my next client coming in, and now I have boomerang clients coming back.
Honestly, it would be. I guess it would have to be like to your point. If I've said to people, if I could clone the first 2 months of this year 6 more times, then I would be clicking my heels. So like honestly, business, but like you said, this business is ups and lows, and so like it's remembering to have the same confidence, trust the process when things slow up as you did when things were going crazy. Because when you got all the sales coming in, you're happy to like, hey, I'll meet with you, Marty. I have no idea if you're gonna end up in business, but I like you. I'm chilling. I'm just learning to talk to people. But when you feel that pressure, it's like, what do? I'm an intern. Fuck you, Marty. Hey, who has power and authority? So
trust the process.
Getting back in that bag, letting it be the confidence, and like trusting the process.
I love it, man. And last but not least, what excites you in this space? What's your hot trend take? What are you feeling these days?
I said the HR thing, so I'll step out of that. I will say that, and this is going to sound messed up, but I've transitioned to being an employer and not an employee. I think that while I love all there's a lot of boosts around us, like mental health and holistic, I think it's very important to understand that like, these are your jobs, these are your employers. Like they're not here to fix you if you're sick mentally or physically. They're not here, like they can support you and provide an environment that's safe, but you should not be looking at your employer to kind of control your whole life. And I've seen in some of the talks I've been through here, people are understanding that. So I think that's important because especially the younger generation coming out, college and COVID, never worked in an office with people, they're like, oh, you take care of everything. And it's like, no, we don't.
Awesome. Well, Kyle Samuels, I want to thank you so much for joining us here on the podcast. This has been a fantastic conversation. We built a relationship. We're going to keep the good times going. Where could folks find you? Where could they connect? Where could they learn more?
Yes. www.hirecte.com or just look for me on LinkedIn, Kyle Samuels. I will add you. Salute.
Boom. First interview of the day. It's a good one. We'll be back in a minute, folks.
That was dope.
Yeah.
Thank you.